Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with the Universe and my conversation with author Roman Hanis. At Conversations with the Universe, we are exploring what it means to be human. And I'm Monica Carless, author of Transforming the Mother Wound and the Dark Pool trilogy. So, welcome, Roman. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, Monica. It's wonderful to be here with you as a
I
fellow author and together in Hay House.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And congratulations on your book. I have it here and I've been reading it, and it's been a very, very interesting read and something that I'm going through slowly because I really want to get the essence of what you're saying. And I also love the way that you have laid out your book with practical, like with practices at the end of each chapter. That's been so helpful because um, some of it is I'm still trying to understand with my mind, but as you say in the book, we have to understand things in our heart. So let me just introduce you a little bit. Roman works with the indigenous Peruvian cultures in the Amazon rainforest and the Andean mountains. Roman is a medicine man, curandero, who is devoted to learning the ancient healing ways of these cultures and is a co-founder of the Paititi Institute, working to preserve the rainforest and its spiritual heritage. And there's so much to learn about you and your quest, Roman, and we're going to get into that during this podcast. So I'd like to invite you to speak a little bit about how you ended up in the Amazon rainforest and why and how that work began.
Thank you so much, Monica. It's really wonderful to be here with you. And the book that I wrote, it's been a result of over 2 decades, and I've been writing it since 2008. And before that, I was just starting together the insights and the basic notes. So it's been about 2 decades that I've been writing this book, and my intention was to truly honor the indigenous traditions and also to create an intercultural bridge, because the mind frame of our today's culture and the way that the ancients perceived the world, that the indigenous people, they're still working with that ancient perception, and the way that the mind works in more uh, in less conceptual ways and
Mm,
in more dreamlike approach to reality. So that's also a part of my book, is to allow people to understand this ancient language that throughout most of our human history we have been operating on that level of more metaphorical, poetical language of life, seeing the connection between the inner and the outer landscapes.
mm,
And so, yeah, so my book is been this kind of rite of passage for me too. And I wrote it as a living rite of passage for people to get
mm,
introduced into the language of nature, the language of the organism, the higher consciousness that is guiding every moment of our
mm,
lives. And that's all part of this ancient evolutionary science that is at the central focus of the book, and how relevant it can be in our today's life once we learn how to create that bridge.
mm,
And so my initial um, motivation, on the physical level, I had a genetic incurable in allopathic medicine illness, and in many cases it becomes terminal with people after
mm,
many years. And then after I received that illness when I was a child and diagnosed with it when I was 12 years old. And then at a certain point, when I was about 15, the Western medication stopped working and started
mm,
making me even worse. There was no other way to treat that condition at that time except invasive surgery. And so the doctors told me that basically that's what I'm bound for, unless
mm,
if my condition deteriorates. They told me that that's what's going to happen. And so that became my motivation for studying alternative medicine modalities and different spiritual paths, as well as the Jungian and Buddhist psychologies to understand the psychosomatic source of my condition. And
Mm.
so that eventually brought me to the Amazon rainforest. And so that was on the inner, on the physical level, on the outer level also. My life was falling apart, and my first great love ended up marrying my best friend behind my back. So all kinds of things, just it was a perfect storm that came
Mm.
together and allowed me to enter this path. And I'm so grateful for that because I
Mm.
might not have been alive if not for this path. And also, my life has not been boring, to say the least.
I love that, and I resonate on 2 points that you made so much that about the evolutionary science. It really resonates with my path as a wise woman on the witch's path, the way that I view humanity in relation to every other organism on the planet, and and the oneness that I feel, which was a long journey as well because I first came through the Catholic Church, then the Protestant Church, and then I found my way into the forest, and that's where I really found myself. So I really resonate with what you're saying there. But also recognizing how crisis or times of crisis in our life can really open up a huge portal for healing or self-awareness or reconnection with our heart. So I really treasure what you're writing in your book because it's is bringing us back to that mythology of self and that understanding of us as part of a community of organisms. So
Mm.
yeah, so I really, really value that. And as soon as I started reading your book, I was like, okay, yes, um, we're kind of on the same frequency in terms of understanding who we are as human beings and why we're here. So um, yeah, I think I may have already said this, but I love how you've laid out your book with the ayahuasca journey, your ceremonies, but also you give practical things that we can tap into at the end of each chapter. Because sometimes, um, as I'm reading it, my mind is struggling to understand what your guide was saying to you because I like my mind wants to say, tell me something practical. Tell me how do I do this? And my heart is trying to settle into just understanding the medicine through my heart. So, um, can I read something that you wrote in your book? I'm just
Sure,
going to quote
absolutely.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, in your book, you write about the primary purpose of all life forms. And I feel that this is something many of us are interested in understanding or coming back to. And you write, the Yaguas believe that the divine union of universal forces in nature is a creative source of all life. The lives of all of Earth's inhabitants are sustained by an intimate relationship that Mother Earth is having with Father Sun. My heart just expands when I read that. All beings are the children of the great spirit of love known as Muniki. The great mother and father are here to continually remind us of our own inherent potential to merge the mind and the heart as one. So, can you tell us a bit more about that? Why it's important for us to merge the mind and the heart? Why is it important for us to know that right now in history?
Well, it's the balance of the complementary opposites that this world is sustained by, and without which life is not possible. I mean, even for each one of us to be able to come into maturity on a physical level at least,
Mm-hmm.
we each need basic care and guidance in our lives. And
Mm-hmm.
so the entire universe is sustained by these complementary opposites that we can see as day and night, the masculine and feminine, the mother and the father, the mind and the heart. So
Mm-hmm.
for the indigenous people, it's very important the balance, right? The equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
of all of the aspects of this world. And so, in
Mm-hmm.
my book also, my elder shared with me how our civilization has been flying too close to the sun,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's a lot about the mind nowadays, and then forgetting about the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Our elders here in Andes, where I am right now, our elders, my main elder, he passed away about a year and a half or so. And he would always share with us how in today's society, in today's world, and even from the religious perspective, he would tell us that everything is about the Papa God,
Mm-hmm.
he
Mm-hmm.
said. And his own tradition, the Andean tradition, is being demonized by the modern religions because his own tradition also works with the shadow realm, with the
Mm-hmm.
Mama Goddess. And so he was
Mm-hmm.
saying, yeah, Papa God sends the rain and he plants the seeds, but
Mm-hmm.
without the Mama Goddess, nothing will grow, and the seeds they need the shadow realm in order to sprout from. And in our
Mm-hmm.
today's society, the shadow realm is often avoided. And so in
Yeah.
this ancient traditions, the earth-based spiritualities,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a lot about the shadow work. It's really to open the heart to all of those dark places in ourselves
Mm-hmm.
so that the potential can germinate. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I find that very essential and very great reminder in my own life how it's so important. It's not about blocking the mind. It's not fighting one against the other. It's really that divine union.
Mm.
The,
Yeah, I love what you say about complementary opposites because we don't often think about opposites as being complementary or necessary to each other. And this really resonates with me as I work with shadow all the time as an earth-based, an earth-based practitioner, where I value what the shadows and the earth is telling us, or what the underworld is speaking about. I think it's really important that we get back to that, to understand that it's important to have the mind aspect, and it's been of great service to humanity, but at the same time unbalanced without the heart.
hmm
What direction are we going in? What are we? And like you said, the shadows are demonized, or the demon is externalized, so that we're not working with our own shadow, but we're just saying, oh, that was the devil, or some other demon or whatever. So we're externalizing the shadow instead of embracing it and loving it.
hmm
So I love how your guide in the book has explained so many of these things to you in a way that at first it seems a little bit esoteric, like how can I grasp this information that he's explaining? But if you relax into it and don't over exercise the mind about it, then the heart really does understand it. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
And
it's intuitive wisdom.
sorry,
The intuitive wisdom.
the intuitive wisdom. Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that I was reading, your guide was saying that in modern times we struggle with issues such as old age and sickness and the death of loved ones and death, and that while we avoid these things in modern society, the ancestors saw these experiences as rites of passage that bring spiritual maturation and greater meaning of life. And what do you think about this? Do you think this could be a way for us to heal modern society, to be able to view
Mm,
those experiences as rites of passage instead of something to avoid?
absolutely.
Mhm.
And I see these experiences as the essential foundations for a genuine spiritual path.
Mhm. Mhm.
Without opening the heart to all of those inevitable thresholds of life,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not possible to realize the higher meaning and purpose of why we are here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, sorry, I just gotta turn something off on my computer here. I feel that if we are to really consciously be alive, we have to accept conscious death. And death brings so much, and illness, as you know from your own path, illness and death brings so much consciousness to our everyday walk and makes us extremely present because we have to be present when we're ill or we're facing, you know, the inevitable death. So I think that if we could um, just embrace those passages more and not see them kind of like as an evil being that is trying to attack us or kill us, but something that is teaching us.
Mm. Yeah, that would allow for life to be much more graceful here
Mm-hmm.
on Earth.
Yeah, yeah. So I love how your guide, Don Sinchi, which I understand is a composite being of many guides that you is am I right
Hmm.
in saying
Hmm.
that? And many
Hmm.
guides that you had.
Yes.
Um, I'm just thinking about how you wrote this book and how you had to amalgamate many teachers into one archetypal teacher. And you did it so brilliantly. Like, I really love how you've brought all that wisdom together into one kind of one being that is teaching you throughout the book. Um, I think it was really brilliant the way you created that, and it made it easier for the reader to be able to absorb the information. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for me, it's been that process of awakening the the inner teacher that the
Mm,
outer teachers are reflections of.
mm,
And so that's how these traditions also work. They're lineages of direct transmission where beyond the individual there is that state of consciousness. There are
mm-hmm,
those evolved qualities that the teachers embody that
mm-hmm,
I can recognize in myself also, but in a much less evolved way. Right? So
mm,
these traditions, it's not about finding the truth somewhere out there or someone else giving me
mm-hmm,
the truth. With all of my teachers, I saw my own truth in them,
mm-hmm,
but in them it was on a much more profound level.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And so that has been the process. I mean, it's part of this mystery school initiation, this ancient mystery initiation schools, where gradually starting to recognize more and more of those seeds of qualities that the lineages they are able to share
mm,
through generations as direct
mm.
experiences.
Yeah, and I
And so
love that.
then, yeah, so then that gradually helped me to connect the dots in terms of how that relates to my own direct life experience. So it's
Mm,
I'm not sharing someone else's experience, but I'm sharing how someone else is guided those experiences to awaken within.
yeah,
I mean, that
yeah.
was my intention at least.
Well, and I love, I love that, the seeds are planted, but then you're excavating the wisdom from within yourself.
Mm,
And that is really the best kind of teacher awakens that wisdom and intuition within you, but they're planting the seeds that you can then grow for yourself. I'm curious about, yeah, the kind of the timeline of um, the healing of your body. And do you feel that it had as much to do um, with the ceremonies that you performed with the ayahuasca, as well as the teachings that you learned? So, in a combination, do you feel like the healing came through the combination of those two things?
mm. Yet the integral approach was so essential.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I also named the book Beyond Ayahuasca, because there's so much more to these traditions than
Mm-hmm.
just this magical potion that people
Yeah.
often run towards to solve all of their problems, but that's not really the solution.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is an integral part of the culture, but it's not the central focus of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's so essential to understand that it's this greater cohesion within the tradition where it
Mm,
is the flora and the fauna and the culture and the myth creation stories and the
mhm,
cosmovisions and the way that people are able to connect and relate with the nature and with the rainforest, with their inner nature
mhm,
as well. So the understanding of that foundation is so essential to this path and it's often
mhm,
overlooked. So
mm,
people just go into the rainforest nowadays, and even people who are working not just with ceremonies but also with
mhm.
plant medicine dietas where people go into isolation for
Yeah.
prolonged periods of time, but then that's not necessarily going to be useful, right? They
Mhm.
also do that for prisoners, right? It's like this, what is it
Yeah.
called? I put them in an isolation cell,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then if there is no foundation for facing oneself,
Right.
for knowing one's own pain and life experience, and also the other side of that, the
Mhm.
potential of it. If there is not that foundation, then people just go into the um, what do you call it? The fantasies of their mind,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then yeah, that's not so useful. And so then my intention has been that, yeah, it shouldn't be done without a deep enough motivation and also some foundation that is laid out
Mhm.
before that of facing oneself.
Mhm. Mhm.
When I was just starting this path, nobody knew about ayahuasca. It was very little known. It was only known within the esoteric circles, people who were
Mhm.
practicing yoga or meditation for years. And so then those people had the foundation. Nowadays, it's becoming more of a hallmark name,
Yeah.
a household name. And
Mhm.
then people go without that foundation and without the extensive spiritual path beforehand.
Mhm.
And so then, of course, that can also be dangerous, right? So
Mhm.
that was my intention to bring that through in the book, how essential that foundation is.
Mm. Yeah, I value that. And I know from watching friends of mine going through the ayahuasca journey, how also non-integration afterwards, like, first of all, there was no foundation at the beginning, and then they went through the experience, and then you fly in, you do it, you fly out, and then no integration. Um, that it's been for some actually dangerous. And what I loved, what I read in your book was how, sometimes you mentioned about walking through the forest through your guide and, when you went to gather the medicine, etc. Every step that you were taking, what you were hearing in the rainforest, what you were experiencing in your heart, all of these things were leading up to the experience you were going to have when you were, taking the medicine. So there was a lot of learning you did beforehand. There was your presence in the rainforest. Um, all these things really enhanced your experience from what I've read so far, because I haven't read the whole thing yet. It's hard to read it like quickly because there's so much, it's so dense, like I don't want to rush it, and I'm gonna go back and reread. But yeah, I really hear what you're saying about there needing to be a foundation for the ayahuasca journey. And so I think that in that way, your book is going to be super valuable for people, you
Hmm.
know, to see that in a different way.
Thank you. Yeah, the intention was for it to be beneficial and useful
Mhm.
to the world. And there are many layers in the book. So that was also
Mhm.
my intention to write it in a way where people can come back to read it again and then every time to find something new.
Mhm. Mhm. But even like rereading chapter one, I read it once and I went back because I thought, okay, I I feel like I need to read it again. And the second time I saw something completely different, you know. that
mm,
I hadn't noticed in the first time reading it. So, yeah. Um, so another thing that I wanted to touch upon is, I understand myself as a child of the great cosmic mother. And, she's the archetypal womb that I come from.
mhm,
Um, and it's the energy that keeps the earth's form activated in the sixth dimension. And I look to the great mother as a loving, nurturing energy, but also I I know that mother can be many things.
mm,
And so um you speak of Mama. Did I say that
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Yeah. The forest mother, who is like the double-edged sword. And I'd like to know more about the forest mother. It feels that though my spirituality is rooted in like Northern European pagan tradition, there's a thread connecting how you and I view the archetype of mother. So I just wonder if you could just tell us a little bit more about the two-headed
mm,
forest mother.
mm. Yes, the Universal Mother has many faces,
Mm,
and her love is expressed sometimes in a more nurturing, peaceful way, and sometimes in a wrathful, destructive way. And
mm-hmm,
so the Sachamama, she represents that, right? That she can be both nurturing in the rainforest. It's so visible how fast the life cycle is in that system. And so you can see simultaneously the decay and the new birth. And
mm,
there is this cycle of creation and destruction, and it's all part of this one amazing organism that
mm-hmm,
supports so many life forms within it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And so the Sachamama, she is like that double-edged sword. It's this energy of life that we all have within us, the energy of our psyche, what in Amazon the healers sometimes refer to as the psychomagic,
mm,
right? And so with this energy, we can do many different things. We can do things that create, we can do things that destroy, we can be in service to life. And so in the Amazonian tradition, if you are in service to love, then this energy of nature, this energy of love will sustain you.
mm,
But if one is in service to destruction, to hatred, to ignorance, then this same energy will turn us into compost for new life to grow out
mm-hmm,
of and be more useful. So we are useful either way, whether we are consciously in service to the greater organism or unconsciously,
mm-hmm,
but it's better to do it consciously for sure,
mm.
rather than be compost.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're all going to be compost at one time or another, but
Pa- part of us will
yeah,
become,
yeah.
right?
But if we can channel that universal love while we are here, then I think we might be better compost.
Well, and we can live longer and we can be
Hmm.
healthier. So that was also part of my own healing process where I had to learn how not to let this life energy, this love to get distorted in my being,
Hmm.
not to be channeled towards a higher purpose in my life.
Do you think that sometimes as practitioners we can be we can kind of distort that feeling that like that our feelings of wanting to be of service or wanting to be, channelers of love, but then the ego kind of gets a hold of it and then we're off our path all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Absolutely.
Mm,
In these traditions, the the role of the medicine man or woman or uh, uh, it's not something that is glorified.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And if one is doing it just for the ego, then
mm-hmm,
it's not
mm-hmm.
gonna work out for very long.
Yeah.
And so my teachers, they taught me that early on. I think I mentioned that in my book, um, where my teacher taught me that I think it's something romantic to become a healer, but
Yeah.
actually it means to become a garbage man, is to deal
Mm,
with the garbage of humanity and
yes.
and often doing everything from all of one's heart to bring benefit to someone, and then they don't even appreciate it, or they spit on your face, or purge in your face, or
Mm,
curse you out.
mm,
Because, yeah, it's this kind of position where pointing people to their shadows, if people are not ready for that, then of course
mm,
people will find all kinds of blames and excuses, and the healer
mm,
is often at the forefront of that. So the
yeah.
easiest target. So yeah, of course, um, my teachers taught me that to be of benefit to others, one has to keep the ego in check. Am I doing this just to make myself feel better? Am I disempowering someone by helping them in this moment and
Mm, mm,
preventing them
mm.
from
Yeah.
awakening their own inner healer? Am I
Yeah.
doing this to get some kind of attention or praise?
Mm,
Or I'm actually doing this because it is part of my own evolutionary journey, and
mhm,
and I'm doing this as a way of honoring the healer within that individual. That's how my teachers taught me, at least, that I'm not healing anyone, that I'm
mm,
just honoring their own inner healer, and then that starts to happen.
mm. That's so beautiful. Thank you. I feel so much of that and really touches my heart and informs me on my own healing journey, but also in terms of what I wrote in my mother wound book. I wanted it to be a gentle path. I know that ayahuasca isn't necessarily a gentle path, but I haven't tried it myself, so I have a very sensitive body and I feel like I might die on the floor. If
No,
I,
and again, that's often the misconceptions of how today people approach it.
mm,
But in ancient times, it was not this sensational experience. It was not
right.
done to get
Yeah.
blasted, and people would get introduced very gently into this tradition,
Mm,
so that there is that trust with Mother Nature. And I find often, especially women, it's much easier because it's this connection with the mother,
yeah. Yeah.
with the flow of nature. So for women often feel this very familiar presence that they've
Mm,
known all their lives.
mm,
Um, for men, there is a bit more of a conceptual mind that
yeah.
needs to be overcome. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, so ayahuasca, she can be, I mean, she can show the depth of harmony and love and
Mm,
gentleness. And she also can show all the ways that each one of us is not gentle with ourselves,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
often all of the suppressed emotions and different tensions that are being held, and how people beat themselves up in their mind and emotions and all of those
Mm,
things. So ayahuasca can really illuminate. She can really bring that
mm-hmm.
uh, to the surface.
I really
And
hear, yeah.
yeah, otherwise, I find that again, ayahuasca is not really the point. Yeah, she can help create more receptivity
Mm-hmm,
and soften the ego. But again, that does not need to happen only in that way. And so
mm-hmm.
people, I've seen many people throughout the years who come to our retreats in our institute, and sometimes people are not able to take the ayahuasca or other sacred plant medicines because of health conditions
Right.
or certain pharmaceuticals that are involved, but people still go through the whole process. They participate in the ceremonies without actually drinking the potion,
Mm, I didn't know that.
and often people will still feel the effects because it's the
Mm,
collective consciousness once
yeah.
we all lift off. And then also through all the practices, the meditations, the insights into the ancient traditions, and people come out sometimes even more transformed, having profound life-changing experiences without some kind of a plant that they took, and because of that,
Mm-hmm,
that can be even more powerful.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You've touched on so many interesting things. I could talk about that forever. But I'm sure that once people read your book, they will notice all the places where you've inserted these wisps of wisdom. Last question.
Wait, before you do, there's something that you mentioned also about the gentleness, right? And
Mm,
you mentioned that before as well about this harmony in the world. And for the indigenous people, there is a way that they relate to themselves.
mm,
In different tribes, they relate to themselves as those who walk gently on the earth or
mm,
walk softly on the earth.
mm. Yeah.
So yeah, so I just wanted to mention that, and yeah, and then of course also maybe that's going to be your next in relation to your next question. But in the book, also my intention was to connect these ancient myths and legends from the Amazon, and we can see parallels of them into
Mm-hmm.
other traditions and cultures in the world as this fall from grace of
Mm,
humanity. We can see in many ancient cultures there is a reference to that legend of the enlightened ancestors, of people living in harmony and peace and love and
mm,
capable of many different abilities, and then starting to forget that.
mm-hmm.
And then my intention was to connect that to each of our life's journey, to each of our individual life's journey from innocence as children and then growing up in the world today and then losing that,
Mm-hmm.
forgetting that.
Well, that was my next question is I was going to ask you, what is the disease of forgetfulness?
Mhm. Yeah, so that's very much in relation to that. So that was my intention in the book to point that out. It's this in my book I refer to it as the spiritual amnesia. My elders refer to it
Mm,
as the sickness of forgetfulness. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, I may remember where I put my keys and things like that, but I forget to stay in my heart. Right? It's the mind that
Mm-hmm.
needs to learn how to rest in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that also relates to many ancient traditions and
Yeah.
the paths that teach the mind how to abide in the heart. That is
Mm-hmm.
part of that
Mm-hmm.
union. And so that is the sickness of forgetfulness in the northern Native American traditions, in the Lakotas, I believe they call it the Wetiko,
Mm,
in other tribes it's the Windigo, and there's this writer Paul Levy, you're probably familiar with
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
his work. He writes a lot about this from the
Mm-hmm.
northern Native American perspective and Jungian psychology.
Yeah.
But in the Amazon, it's a very parallel perspective of this sickness of forgetfulness that descended upon the world, that made people greedy and feel separation and hatred and fear. So that's all part of that sickness. And the indigenous tribes, for
Mm-hmm.
example, I am familiar with some of the barely contacted tribes that are still just
Mm-hmm.
barely contacted. They're just started to create to make contact with civilization. They still maintain their more original ways of life,
Mm-hmm.
and in those tribes to this day, it's considered that if someone in the tribe has fear, that they cannot remain in the tribe because they become sick with this pandemic
Forgetfulness. Yeah.
of the world, because for them, uh, yeah, love has to rule one's life. So if one
Mm-hmm.
becomes overcome, yeah, of course we all feel fear, but if one becomes overcome by it, if one becomes totally a slave by it, then they actually expel those people from their tribes because
Mm,
they don't want anyone else to be infected.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that when I, when you read history, and most of history is, we're covering what wars happened, what yeah, wars and overtaking of other cultures, or whatnot. So we read about that, and it's hard to remember that there are other stories, or maybe it's her story, where when I meditate with my ancient ancestors that I don't even have a name for, that I'm not sure if they're part of my direct lineage, but I can tap into them in meditation. I see quite a different world that was free of war, and like free of, the things that we're suffering from now. So I know that it's possible, and I really admire and respect what you're bringing to the world with your book, which I will put all the links uh, at the bottom of the podcast so that people can get a hold of your book, or interact with you more directly. But yeah, I'm really excited for everyone to learn more about you and your work, and I appreciate it so much. It's brought so much to my life, even just in the last, couple weeks where I've been reading. So I just want to thank you, Roman, for your passion and for your creativity and your dedication to being of benefit and being of service to the world. I mean, I really feel that from you. I feel your heart-centeredness, and I can really definitely read it in your book. So thank you so much for speaking with me, and I'm excited to share this with the audience.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
thank you for taking your time and spending time with us.
Thank you so much, Monica. And yeah, we mentioned about the book, and definitely I wish for it to be useful in the world, and it's part of our organization's initiative. I'm a
Mm,
co-founder of the non-profit organization here in Peru for the preservation of ecology and indigenous
mm,
culture. And the intention for the book is also dedicated to the Yagua tribe that I was adopted into
mm,
2 decades ago. And with the proceeds from the book, we're developing an ancestral school for the Yagua nation.
mm,
So the book is actually also is doing something for the indigenous people and sharing their wisdom with the world. So I find that this is the best scenario where everyone benefits,
yeah.
and then we can continue to honor our humanity and the culture and the planet and the ecology and the indigenous soul, right? It's really at the forefront of all of our lives, is that return to the original relationship with
Mm,
the earth and with each other, like you mentioned, you see in your
yeah.
meditations.
Yeah. And it's so powerful, and I really do feel like it's the way forward. And if we can just get past our feelings of superiority, we can understand that these tribes hold so much wisdom, and we can learn from that if we allow, our heart to open to it. So thank you
Mm,
so much, because there can be a lot of, wisdom out there, but unless somebody is a bridge, I feel like between the modern society and the society that you're bringing to the world, like there needs to be a bridge, and your institute is a bridge for that. And that's really important, because otherwise, how do we tap into it, so I appreciate you being that bridge.
Yeah, thank you so much, Monica. And also, I wanted to mention that I was very inspired about your book, Healing the Mother Wound.
Mm,
And I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I looked up information about it, and yeah, it's very much relevant to the world today, I
mm,
feel. And it is this awakening of the heart's potential, the universal mother
mm,
within us, and the
mhm,
need to reconcile all of the stories, right? His stories, and awaken the her
mhm.
stories
Yeah,
in our world today.
and eventually just becoming more familiar with ourselves and becoming friends with ourselves. And if we're friends with ourselves, we can be friends with anyone.
Mm.
So thank you so much. And I will put all the links in that people need to connect with you. And I thank you again, Roman. Thank you for sharing time and space with us.
Thank you so much, Monica. Many blessings to you, and I look forward to us continuing to co-create and make the
Yeah.
world a better place again.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Mm,
everyone, for watching. We'll see you
Thank
again.
you, everyone. Many blessings. Thank you, Monica.